I don't hear Troubadour, so I don't know if Clay's ready to come on or not. Clay, are you okay without your walk-up song that you fully requested about 7 minutes ago?
Yeah, I mean, it really wouldn't have mattered any George Strait. I've got on my phone, I think I have every George Strait song that he's ever recorded. You can just play the 50 number one album and do just fine. And then there's another one called 22 More Hits. So that's 72 songs. That'll get you like from here to the Rocky Mountains.
I love it. Clay, how many times have you, I'll phrase it like this. I assume that you've seen George Strait in concert.
3 times.
Oh, okay, that answers that next question. I figured it would have been more.
There is a reason I'm not playing George Strait, too. It's not because I don't want to honor Clay being on the show right now. It's because we post his videos on YouTube, and they'll get taken down.
Oh, that's true.
If I play copywritten music.
We'll get kicked off the YouTube if we do that. Yeah.
So the ultimate George Strait concert that I saw was at the Frontier Days Rodeo. It was an outdoor concert. They have the rodeo during the daytime. The 14 days of rodeo. It's the granddad.
Whoa.
Sounds like we just lost Clay.
Audio's gone.
Yeah, I know he's on the phone, so he was headed into Fayetteville today, so that very well could be.
Audio's gone.
Could be the case right there. I'm sure we'll work on getting Clay back. Yeah, 877-377-6660.
See, maybe it was
Hacker and Harrison says "Foolhardy Memory" is a great George Strait song for Clay.
That's a great one.
Bob from Hot Springs talk about all my exes live in Texas. The Southwest Conference is exes.
That's true.
They sure are. Every last one of them. That's exactly right. Okay. And they're all still in Texas.
Maybe it was copyright that kicked Clay off because we were just talking about George Strait.
Well, as soon as he was gone, the quickness, he's back. Whatever.
Look at that.
Very, very fast fingers there, Clay.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. So George Strait has a great baseball song though. I'd say I don't know any George Strait songs. I know lots of George Strait songs, but I guess my favorite would be The Fireman because that is a great relief pitcher's song.
Yep. They're great sing along. That's the thing. But I saw George Strait at the Frontier Days Rodeo, and he came out and he sang 33 straight songs, and they were all, number ones, Cowboys Like Us. And every time he sang the word Cowboys, the 24,000 Cowboys in the arena threw up their Stetsons or their George Strait resistals, whatever they were wearing. They're pretty cool. And I saw him at the end of an 8-day fishing trip to Wyoming and Colorado in the mountains. So that's a memory that is going to be really, really strong. To see him in an outdoor arena was pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Clay, let's get into this baseball team a little bit here because your last column theme was sort of like the theme going into the weekend for me. I told the guys on the Razorback Daily I did not think that Arkansas had played their best baseball yet this year, yet they had won every series going into the last weekend. It felt like they had already cemented the number one seed in the NCAA tournament and were on the edge of winning the regular season for the SEC. And then they go out, Clay, and play 3 so well-played games against Florida. And your headline was Van Horn getting his team's best. I felt that's what I watched on those 3 games.
Yeah, and they've just gotten better as the year goes along. And so I asked him in the postgame, how do you do it? And he said, well, first you have to stay healthy. Second, it helps to have something to play for. In other words, your players are motivated. You've got their attention. When you no longer have something to play for, it's tougher. And they wanted to be number one, and they've held it every week, which is really, really hard to do. You've got a bullseye on you, and you're playing great teams. You're going on the road. And it seems like every other weekend somebody's saying we're opening it up to full capacity. They did that at LSU. They kind of did it at South Carolina. They did it at, it seemed like Mississippi State and Ole Miss to some degree. And they just seemed to like it. And I think they got tougher. They got better. And he said, we shorten our practices, and the players appreciate that. And I think they've got great coaches. And that's the thing that, his strength and conditioning guy, Blaine Kinsley, knows how to he's a baseball guy. He knows how to maintain strength during the season. Usually you lose weight during the long season. I look at Casey Opitz, and he might have dropped a pound or two, but catchers tend to do that. But I can't tell that, their pitchers. I mean, Cops looks the same to me as far as like strength and that kind of thing. So you got the Paulette injury, but by and large, they had Vermillion and Nolan out for a few weeks, but that's it.
Yeah, we kind of forget, though, that Paulette was second on the team in innings pitched around the time of the injury. He and Wicklander and then Cops.
Yeah.
Paulette didn't necessarily go very deep into games. He was a pretty important piece of this pitching staff. Now, I agree with you, though, that they're deep enough to be able to withstand his loss for the rest of this season, but it does take a couple of guys stepping up. I'll tell you who already has those stepped up, Clay, and I feel we've seen that the last 2-3 times out. It's Caleb Bolden. He could be a real key for this team in the postseason.
Yeah, he started out, and what he did, I believe, was that Texas?
Yes.
I think he was SEC Pitcher of the Week. Put up a bunch of zeros against Texas with just a wipeout slider, and then he couldn't find it for a while, and he kind of developed a little bit of a breaker, went to that curve a little bit. Now the slider looks like it's coming back and getting to the hot part of the year, and his velocity's picked up. Yeah, but I will tell you this: they don't have to go deep with their starters because they got guys like Monk and Cops. I don't know if Monk's very good twice on the weekend, but he's been terrific. And I think you're going to see Vermillion and Nolan get better this week. That's the next two pieces to the puzzle that you thought in preseason that they were going to be candidates to be starters, and but they're coming. They're on the way back.
So Clay, you win today, and you're playing either Ole Miss or Vandy tomorrow. And Vandy's been very good most of the season. They've stumbled a bit of late, and they might be without their shortstop. Ole Miss has a really tough lineup, but their pitching has been a bit shaky now. But I don't care about any of that other stuff because I just wonder who would be more annoying, the Ole Miss antics or the Vandy whistler. Because either way, I think I'll be rolling my eyes. Which one would get you to roll your eyes even more?
Well, I can turn the sound down, so I think it's probably the Ole Miss antics.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not going to be. Hopefully, it's nothing that actually we have to deal with too much because they can only do antics if they do a lot of positive things, and hopefully that won't be the case if they do play Arkansas.
By the way, Florida just beat Mississippi State 13-1, boys.
Goodness gracious!
They were saving it up, weren't they?
They were.
They run-ruled them in 7 innings. Now, I know Mississippi State, threw a bullpen day, but nobody would have seen something like that coming. And, hey, does that tell you maybe just how good Arkansas played last week? Florida has just outscored the two.
They were terrific.
Oh, yeah. Florida's just outscored 2 teams in the SEC tournament 17-2. And the Hogs outclassed them. All right, Clay's with us for the next segment. So, and then Bill King with us at the bottom of this hour. This show's going by really quickly for a Wednesday on a very hot afternoon now here in Hoover, Alabama. Halftime's back after the break. Clay Henry joining us here for another segment on Halftime. You hear that grand slam by Caden Wallace. His brother Paxton, he was at Wichita State, was named All-American Athletic Conference first team. And Caden is on the all-freshman team in the SEC. And boy, what a career he's going to have moving forward. Clay, when you watch Caden Wallace play, we have to remind ourselves he's the only freshman that is getting consistent playing time. That as far as pitching and hitters are concerned, and yet you don't know that he's a freshman. He doesn't play the game like a freshman. His approach is much more advanced than that, and I think he might be the cornerstone of this team moving forward. He and Robert Moore certainly next year.
Yeah, you're right, and I think you're going to see him at third base, which is his natural position. But you would not know that by watching him play right field. And they put him out in the outfield when he got here last fall, and kind of taught him angles and routes. And, there was a play, I guess it was against Florida, where he was playing kind of in right center, and there was a foul ball, and he went and got it. And you realize how fast he is. He's just really a fine athlete. And people went after him with that slider, and he's got an eye to let it go. And he'll have some swing and misses early in the count, but he'll choke up and do some damage. Going the other way with 2 strikes. That's just not normal for a freshman, guys.
No, that's for sure. I mean, line to line power and everything that goes along with the patience that he has shown. I kind of wonder about. So you and I were talking last segment about how right now it feels Arkansas played their best baseball of the season against Florida. You felt the same way about men's basketball in February. I've seen, when I did UALR games, Joe Foley always had his team playing very well going into February. Dave's teams are always playing good this time of the year. But there's extra juice when you finally had your full crowd. And I think we'll probably feel that effect this weekend for softball. And I mean, honestly, Clay, when the way that they play, there's an effect from the way this team plays in front of the home crowd. I honestly can't imagine them losing 2 games on a weekend at Baum-Walker Stadium moving forward.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I just went over this with our Matt Jones, Hawgs Sports. The umpires that they've already announced the umpires for the College World Series. And the only thing that scares me about postseason play is the strike zone, and it can get really tight or really weird. And there's some odd things that happen in postseason play, and we've seen it before. And I think there was a regional at Tempe one time where Arkansas went out there and played Arizona State, and all at once the strike zone was bouncing around. So those are the kind of things that you worry about or think about that could go wrong, get you off the rails a little bit. The other thing is Dave. He is really good at understanding how to monitor the pulse of a team, but spending a week in the heat at Hoover, don't want to use up too much of your legs, wear yourself down, and it's just, I think he knows how to do this, but that's the thing that you've got to navigate this week is you got to get through it and still have your stinger. You want to lose your momentum, and how do you keep your momentum and you don't, go with your starting pitchers, as much as you can, or what, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's just a weird week to navigate, and I think, if you talk to coaches privately, they'll say somehow they want it to be next Tuesday from this Tuesday. Somehow we need to get to next Tuesday and everything be all right.
So I saw the tweet about the umpires in Omaha, and another one of the names caught my interest. Not Perry Costello, of course, that's going to. But I remember Costello umpiring a game. I think it was the 2018 College World Series involving Arkansas. I think he was at first base, and nothing happened. So he was sort of invisible. But it's Bill Van Raphorst, and I remember Van Raphorst as a Texas League umpire who then, and this might have been 3 years ago, I think he's the last umpire to eject Dave Van Horn from a game. And he ejected Dave while he was still in the dugout. He didn't come out of the dugout. I have not seen Bill Van Raphorst umpire a Razorback game since, and I don't think that's coincidence. So that's the one that really got me interested. You don't see Dave argue anymore. He can't. He told you that these arguments were going away because of replay, and he still gets fired up in the dugout, but there's no more face-to-face.
Yeah, I mean it's the charging down to first base on the bang bang play that's gone away because of the replay. There's another. There are 2 or 3 other. Joe Burleson caught my attention. He's had some interesting. He's the guy I believe that ejected the videographer in the championship series at Omaha, is it Aaron Aramdes? I can't say that guy's name, but he was an umpire in the NCAA tournament that called for the tar, and then Dave argued. This was against Missouri State, the game that went all night. And then Dave talked him out of it, and they kept playing, and of course then Keith Gutton argued, was upset that they called for the tarp, and then Dave talked him out of the tarp. So not all these guys have black marks by their name, as far as Arkansas fans. Some of them, you got good cops and bad cops, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Couple more minutes here with you, Clay Henry. Before we let you go, let's talk a little bit about tonight's or this afternoon's matchup versus the Georgia Bulldogs. Yeah. Lyle Lockhart on the mound tonight for the Razorbacks. Clay, what are you expecting out of Lockhart tonight? I think with talking with Phil earlier in the show, just whatever Lockhart can give you, you're just going to ride it as long as you can and then turn to the bullpen. What do you expect out of Lockhart tonight on the bump for the Razorbacks?
He's his last couple of outings, he's shown ability to hit the corners with 2 or 3 pitches. He's got 4 pitches. He lost velocity in the middle of the year, and I think you saw him get lit up at LSU. Then he sat out a weekend, and the velocity was back. I think he pitched in midweek, and then he came back the next game and was really good. So this is what's the heat going to do to him? Because it's going to be hot this afternoon, and that's the toughest thing for a starting pitcher is when you face heat for the first time in the season. Can you maintain fluids? Are you okay? And because a pitcher is toiling in heat, and it's some like it, some don't. He's a South Texas guy. I bet he likes it.
Before we let you go, Clay, I want to ask you about the June issue of Hogs Illustrated coming out. You sent me a picture of the cover this morning, or just a little bit ago. Tell us a little bit about what you got coming in here with the June issue of Hogs Illustrated. I've been talking about a lot of Razorback football in this issue.
It's 80 pages. There's 10 feature stories. There's one on every position. Got a depth chart. I don't think anybody's seen a depth chart yet. There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And on the cover, we got Sam Pittman with his jukebox that, Judy Henry and her law partners gave him. It's one of those Rockola jukebox. It's been restored. And the CD that you see in the window is George Strait. So that was just an accident that George Strait is on our cover. First time we've had the King on the cover.
Perfect timing. I mean, you can't ask for anything better right there.
I want to say, Clay, I know you traveled all the football games. I'm not putting it out for right now, but I feel like sooner or later you and I need to be on a road trip. Doesn't have to be 10 hours or anything. It would be an experience for me to sit in a car or a truck, because I figure it would be a truck if we're listening to George
We'll
Strait.
be rolling in a truck.
Yes. I feel like that's an experience I want to check off my list at some point.
Well, we might do it sometime, maybe for a baseball series or something. But you got to listen to all my stories now. That can be brutal.
Hey, I do that for 30 minutes a week on this show. It's just fine by me. We can extend that to another couple of segments. It would work out.
Tip of the iceberg.
That's right. And the tip of the iceberg is going to take down the ship. Appreciate you, Clay, as always.
Thanks, Clay.
Enjoyed it. Thank you all.
You got it. Clay Henry joining us here on Halftime. We're moving right along to Bill King, who is the king of college football talk, but is also our resident Vanderbilt baseball expert. And I need to get him to explain the Whistler a little bit more, because it's not just one guy, it's 2 guys. And we'll get into some football stuff as well. You do have the end of the dead period coming up, and Bill's pretty dialed in. So we'll get into that stuff next on Halftime. Don't go anywhere.